Okay, so today we are going to learn how to solve linear systems by substitution. So far, we have used graphing to solve. Okay, and so now we're going to learn substitution. Okay, so remember substitution, think about what a sub does. Okay, a substitute, like for teaching, takes the place of me when I'm gone. So that's what we're going to be doing. So remember substitution, means take the place of. Okay. So that's a really important vocabulary definition that you want to remember. Okay, so down here it says the steps to solve a linear system using substitution. Okay, we're going to solve one of the equations for one of its variables. So we're either going to get y equals or x equals. Okay, when possible, solve for a variable that already has a coefficient of blank or blank. Well, think what numbers are easiest to work with. Okay, we end up wanting it to be by itself. What's that magic number that I don't write in front of it when it's by itself? A 1. Okay, and then -1 would also be pretty easy to work with because we would just have to multiply or divide by a -1. Okay, so the second thing you're going to do is substitute, and this is going to be confusing until we actually do it. So I understand if I read this and you go, what? Okay, probably will. Okay, so substitute the expression from step 1. So the one that you get, like whatever you get over here, you're going to have an expression over here, okay, into the other equation for the variable that you solve for. So whatever would be here, okay, in the other equation, I would put it in for x because that's what it's equal to. Okay, and then solve for the opposite variable. So if I'd be putting this in for x, I'd be solving for y. Okay, you should only have one variable, x or y, after substituting. And again, you'll see that. And then you'll substitute the value from step 2 into the revised equation from step 1 and solve. Okay, so the biggest thing here is if you don't know how to solve equations, okay, this is going to be hard. Okay, and every other method that we will learn other than graphing, if you don't know how to solve equations, you're not going to do well. Remember how I told you solving equations would come back to haunt you if you didn't know how to do it. Okay, okay, so down here it says solve the linear system. So the first step, remember, is solve one of the equations for one of its variables. So let's look, and we're going to see, is one variable already solved for? Yeah, so in this one, I already know that y is equivalent to 3x plus 2. Okay, so I know that y and 3x plus 2 are the same. Okay, they are the same, they are equal to each other, they are equivalent. So I can use them interchangeably. Okay, it's just like some people call me Miss Hart, some people call me Andrea. Okay, so I can use them interchangeably. So I need to get rid of this y over here so that all I have left is x. Well, I know what y is equal to. It's equal to 3x plus 2. So I'm going to take this and substitute it in for y. So that now I'll only have x's, and you'll see how that happens. Okay, so I still have my first x. I still have my addition sign. I still have the 2. The only thing I'm changing is this y. I'm going to insert 3x plus 2 in its place. Okay, because I know they are equivalent, so I know I can do that. And then I still have the equal sign, and I still have the 11. Okay, so now you've seen problems like this. You distribute and solve for x. Okay, so I'm going to distribute the 2 to the 3x and the 2. So 2 times 3x is 6x. And 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, so now I have to combine like terms. So this was distributing, which we know how to do that. Okay, so now I have to combine like terms. These are all things we did when we learned how to solve equations. Okay, so 1x, remember this is like 1x. 1x plus 6x is 7x. And then there's nothing on this side of the equation to add to the 4. Okay, so now I have to solve just like I would a normal equation. Inverse operations, okay, we do addition and subtraction first. So I need to get rid of the 4. It's being added, it's positive, so to get rid of it I'm going to subtract. And what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Okay, so then I have 7x equals 11 minus 4 is 7. Okay, and then I need to get the x by itself. The 7 is keeping it from being by itself. They are being multiplied, so to undo multiplication, I have to divide. So I'm going to divide by 7. Okay, so now I've got x equals, well, 7 divided by 7 is 1. Okay, so I know 7 divided by 7 is 1. So now I know that x equals 1. Okay, now, so we've done this. We substituted the expression, this one, into the variable that was solved for. We plugged it into y. Okay, and then we solved for the other variable. We solved for x. Okay, so now we're going to substitute this into this equation. Okay, well, is it going to go in for y or x? Well, it's going to go in for x because that's what I know it's equal to. So I'm going to have y equals 3x plus 2, and I'm going to substitute this 1 in for the x. So now I can solve for y. Okay, so y equals 3 times 1 plus 2. Well, 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. Okay, so now I have my y value. And remember, the answer to a linear system is an ordered pair. So your answers always need to be written as ordered pairs. So I'm going to add that. Answers always need to be written as ordered pairs x, y. Okay, so you always need to put your answer in XY form. Okay, I'm going to draw a line here so that you know where that is. Okay, so my X value is 1, my Y value is 5. Okay, we can always go back and check. Okay, so 3 times 1, so if X is 1, 3 times 1 plus 2, that's 5. Okay, and then I'm going to check over here. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So I know that that's the correct answer. Okay? Okay, go ahead and try it. You try number 1. Okay, this is probably going to be a little bit of a long lesson, but it's over a weekend, so it shouldn't be as bad. Okay? It's like if you're trying to do it in one night. Okay, so this is one where I don't have anything that's already solved for. Okay, but I have, remember it said that the suggestion was to, when possible, solve for a variable that already has a coefficient of 1 or negative 1. Okay? So here, I can either solve for this x, because it already has a coefficient of 1, or I can solve for this variable, because it's already has a coefficient of 1. 1 is obviously easier to work with negative 1. Okay, you could solve for the x here, but that just creates extra work. So I'm going to solve for the x over here. Okay, so to get this x all by itself, remember, I don't have to put it into slope-intercept form. I don't have to solve for y because I'm not graphing. So I can solve for x now. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 2y. Remember, it's positive. If there's no sign, it's positive. Okay, so subtract 2y from both sides. Okay, x equals negative 2y minus 4. Okay, so now I know those two things are equivalent to each other. So I can take this expression and plug it in up here for x. Okay, so I have y minus negative 2y minus 4 equals negative 5. Okay, so now we have to distribute. It's like I'm distributing a negative 1. Okay, there's no 1 there, but it's like a negative 1. Okay, it's like if there was a 1 there. Okay. So I have negative 1 times negative 2y. Well, a negative times a negative is a positive, and 1 times 2y is 2y. And then I have negative 1 times negative 4. Negative times a negative is a positive, and then 1 times 4 is 4. Okay, and then I still have the negative 5. So that was my distributing. Okay, and now I'm going to combine like terms. Okay, so y plus 2y, this is like 1y. 1y plus 2y is 3y. Okay, and now I need to solve for y because I plugged in for x, solved for y. Okay, plug in for one variable, solve for the other variable. Okay, so this is being added, so to undo it, take it away, I have to subtract. So that goes away, and then I have 3y equals negative 5 minus 4 is negative 9. And then to solve for y, I divide by 3. So y equals negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. Okay, so there's my y value. Okay, so now I'm going to take this and I'm going to plug it in, all the way up here. Okay, I'm going to plug it into this equation. So x equals -2. I'm substituting -3 in for y. Okay. -2 times -3 is 6. 6 minus 4 is 2. Okay. Now, when you check your answers, you always want to use the original equations, not your altered ones. Okay, now I will say, I'm going to make sure I write my answer, so 2, -3. Okay, so you can do a lot of this in your head, but when you check, answers, okay, use original equations. It's very important you do that, because if you made an error when you solved from here to here, you won't catch it if you won't catch the error if you use this one. Okay, so you have to use the original. So let's just check. If I do 2 times 2, I get 4. Oops, nope, I'm sorry. 2 times -3. I'm actually going to write this one out because this looks longer. So 2 times -3 plus 2. So this is my x, this is my y. So -3 in for y and 2 in for x. Okay, should give me -4. Well, 2 times -3 is -6. And -6 plus 2 is indeed -4, so that one's good. Okay, so this is my first one. My second one is y minus x equals -5. So y is -3 minus 2 in for x should be -5. Well, -3 minus 2 is -5, so I know my answer is correct. Okay? Okay, go ahead and try you try number 2. Okay, example number 3, solve the linear system. Okay, so now I don't have any variable that has a coefficient of 1 or -1. So now I have to decide which variable is going to be easier to solve for. Okay, so if I'm looking, do I have a variable that's already almost by itself on one side? Yeah, this one's already almost by itself. If you don't, you would just have to solve like we've been doing. You could just solve for y like normal and then plug that equation in. Okay, but this equation, this variable is already by itself on this side, so I'm going to solve for that one. Okay, so to solve for the x, I have to get rid of the -2. The -2 and the x are being multiplied, so to undo multiplication, I have to divide. So I'm going to have to divide by -2 for everything. Okay, 6 divided by -2 is -3. -2, oops, I missed a negative there. -2y divided by -2, well, that cancels out and that becomes positive. So then I just have y, and then -2 divided by -2 is just x. Okay, so I know that x is equal to -3 plus y. So that's the equation I'm going to plug in for x over here. Okay, so now I have 4 times, this is the expression I'm plugging into the x here. So -3 plus y plus 6y. Don't forget the 6y that's still there. Okay. Okay, now I have to distribute. So 4 times -3 is -12. And then 4 times y is 4y. Okay. Okay, then I'm going to combine like terms. So 4y plus 6y is 10y. Okay, now I have to get rid of this -12. It's negative, so to get rid of it, I'm going to add. Okay, so I have 10y equals 4 plus 12 is 16. And then to solve this, I'm going to divide by 10, and I have 16/10. Now I can simplify that to 8/5, or you can turn it into a decimal, which is 1.6. Okay, so I know y equals 1.6. Okay, so now I'm going to take this and I'm going to plug it in all the way over here, remember, into the equation that I started with. So I have x equals -3. I've just put the x on this side. Now I'm going to put the -3 plus y on this side, plus 1.6. Okay, if I do -3 plus 1.6, I get -1.4. So that's my x value. So my equation, or my answer, is -1.4, 1.6. Okay, now let me get a calculator so we can check this much easier. Okay, I can show you a method that you can use to solve this easier, or to check it easier, okay? So I have 6 minus 2y equals negative 2x. So check 6 minus 2y should equal negative 2x, okay? So I'm going to plug in 6 minus 2 times my y is 1.6, okay, and I got 2.8, okay? And then I should get negative 2, if I multiply negative 2 by my x, I should also get 2.8. So if I plug in negative 2 times negative 1.4, I get 2.8. So I know that I did, that one's right, okay? So now I got to do the other one. If I do, and I can just plug this in all at once this time. So I have 4 times, 4 times negative 1.4 plus 6 times 1.6. I'm going to go off the notes a little bit. That's 1.6, okay? So if I plug, I'm going to just take that and plug it right in. 4 parentheses, it's going to look exactly like I wrote it. Plus 6 times 1.6, now 1.69. Should give me 4. Did it give me 4? Yep. Okay, so it should have equaled 4, and that's what I got. Okay, so I know that one's right also. So that shows my answer is correct. Okay? Okay, go ahead and do this you try. Okay, solving a word problem. I know word problems are everybody's favorites, okay? So, it says many businesses pay website hosting companies to store and maintain the computer files that make up their websites. Internet service providers, which they call ISPs if you've ever heard that, also offer website hosting. The costs for website hosting offered by a website hosting company and an internet service provider are shown in the table. Find the number of months after which the total cost for the website hosting will be the same for both companies. Okay, so we have to start by writing equations for each. Okay, so the internet service provider, okay, so we're just going to say the cost is y. Okay, so cost is y. Okay, number of months is going to be the x. Okay, so we want to clarify which is which. Okay, so the total cost is $21.95, so this is for the ISP, $21.95 per month. So that gets the x because that's the per month. And then the setup fee is $10. Okay, and then the website hosting company, okay, their cost is, they don't have a setup fee, so it's like their y-intercept would be 0. Okay, they just have the $22.45 a month. Okay, so we want to know when these two things are going to be equal to each other. So I'm going to take these two expressions and set them equal. And you can think about it as I'm taking this and substituting it in for that y. Okay, because I know 22.45x is equal to y, so I can plug it in there. So I have 22.45x equals 2195x plus 10. Okay, now I have to solve this. Okay, so I need to get all of the x's on the same side. So I'm going to have to subtract. Remember, you always want to move the smaller one. Okay, remember, always move the smaller one so that it stays positive. Okay, so 2195x, I'm subtracting it because it's positive. 2195x, okay. So now I do 2245 divided by 21, oops, no, minus 2195. And I get 0.5. So I have 0.5x equals 10. Okay. And then remember, I'm trying to solve for x, the number of months. Okay. So I'm going to divide by 0.5. Okay, because those two things are multiplied, so to get rid of it, I have to divide. And then if I divide 10 by 0.5, I get 20. So remember, x represents months, so it's 20 months is when they will be the same. Okay, now if it asked you to find out how much it would be after that 20 months, you'd take this, that 20, and put it in for x here. So you do 2245 times 20. So times 2245. And you'd get $449. Now, if you wanted to put it into this one, you would just do 2195 times 20 and then add the 10, and it would be the same because that's the point where they are equal. Okay. Okay, this problem is kind of hard, so I'm going to help you, it's kind of hard to understand how to write the equation, so I'm going to help you. Okay, so your brother and sister took turns driving on a 635-mile trip that took 11 hours to complete. Your brother drove at a constant speed of 60 miles per hour, so bro is 60 miles per hour. Okay, I'm going to write 635 miles total, 11 hours total. Okay, so your brother drove at a constant speed of 60 miles per hour, and sister drove at a constant speed of 55 miles per hour. Okay, let X be the number of miles your brother drove, and let Y be the number of miles your sister drove. Write a system of equations, one that shows the total number of hours driven and one that shows the number of miles driven, and then solve. Okay, so if I knew the number my brother drove and my sister drove, I would add them together to get 11. So the first equation is X plus Y equals 11. Okay, good on that one. So that's total number of hours driven, so we did that. Okay, and then shows the total number of miles driven. Well, I know that's supposed to be 635. Okay, so there's the number of miles my sister drove, and then there's the number of miles my brother drove, and number of I'm going to change what this says real quick. This needs to be the number of hours your brother drove, and same with this one, number of hours your sister drove. Instead of miles, these need to say hours. Otherwise, it won't make sense with this situation. So X plus Y, so my sister's hours plus my brother's hours. Okay, actually, brother, sister. Brother is X, sister is Y. Okay, so if I knew how long he had driven, say he drove 5 hours, okay, I would multiply 5 by 60 to get the total number he drove. But I don't know how many hours he drove, so I'm just going to do 60 times X. Because if I did know, I would multiply that number of hours times the 60, because that's how fast he drove. Okay, and then the same for my sister, that would be 55 times Y. Okay, so go ahead and solve that equation, that system of equations, using the same methods we just used.